Number one bestseller, The Russia Hoax. Welcome, both of you. Let's start with you, Greg, and let's talk about Comey and his decision and withdrawing his legal challenge. What do you think's going on?
Well, Comey is a crafty and cunning guy. He's as slippery as an eel. And look at what he's done. He twisted the law to clear Hillary Clinton when he knew she committed crimes. Then he launched an investigation of Trump without evidence. Then he lied to a FISA court to spy on a Trump associate. Then he stole government documents and leaked them to the media to trigger the special counsel, who's his pal. And then he continuously has given deceptive answers to Congress. If anybody should be charged with making a false or misleading statement, it should be Comey 10 times over. So it'll be interesting to see how he holds up under cross-examination in front of Congress, and we'll know the results within 24 hours.
In a radio interview on Sunday, Giuliani accused Robert Mueller, David Schoen, of pressuring witnesses to lie. Now, that pretty much is what was described in detail on this program by Jerome Corsi. Now, both Jerome Corsi and Roger Stone have repeated to me that they never, ever, in their lives, ever, had any contact with WikiLeaks, a representative of WikiLeaks, a third party associated with WikiLeaks, or Julian Assange. Now, if that's the case, if they're sending emails back and forth and wondering what else WikiLeaks might have, which was, frankly, the widespread speculation after the DNC emails dropped, would that be a crime? Is that something nefarious? Is that anything outside of the ordinary when it comes to politics, especially when you compare it to Hillary Clinton, hiring a foreign national to put together a dossier full of Russian lies that were fed to the American people and used to bludgeon Donald Trump?
Right. You're 100% right. But listen, the underlying issue here that you've put your finger on is absolutely huge. This Jerome Corsi thing is sensational, frankly. I don't know that it'll go anyplace. If they indict and there's an ongoing criminal case, then it's going to be very difficult, and they're going to be hesitant to interfere with that. On the other hand, because it's an ethics complaint, clearly the Justice Department could do something. This is where the overseer of the special counsel must act. You have Whitaker in there now. He has the authority, and I would say even the obligation to act. When he learns about this kind of conduct, which was completely to be expected when you have a team of people like Mueller, Weissman, Andres, Rhee, etc., this has been their M.O. throughout their careers. Tell us what we want, you get off. Don't tell us what we want, you're going to have more trouble than you ever could have imagined. That's not about getting to the truth.
But let me just add some context to that. That is exactly what Jerome Corsi told us, David, this week. He said that he was told exactly what they wanted him to say. Now, he's 72 years old, and he knows he's risking potentially his life in jail. By the way, so is Paul Manafort. I don't know, but how old is Manafort? He's got to be close to 70, right? So Manafort comes up with a cooperation deal after he had the partial convictions in the one trial that took place to avoid the other trial. And now we hear that Mueller is just out for blood. I mean, how many years do you want to put Manafort in jail? You want to guarantee that he dies in jail because of taxes and a bank loan fraud? I mean, if that's what the penalty is, I guess that's what he's going to get.
It's called the justice system. This is a complete injustice. Nobody out there believes that this is how they operate day to day. I'm telling you, this is what these people have made a career of doing in the run-of-the-mill cases that don't get the attention this is getting. Nobody's done much in the past like Corsi has done now. He's at least putting it out there. Whether it goes any place or not, he's putting it out there. And I believe within the Justice Department, they have an obligation to find out if this is happening, you know that it is, and to rein it in immediately and to stop the special counsel from doing this or get rid of them.
Well, we've been saying it for a long time. Now, I'm assuming here there was an article that came out, no end in sight, Cohn Manafort development seen as keeping Mueller probe going well into 2019. So I guess now we've got a 2-year process in this, Gregg Jarrett, but yet, people ask me, well, why do you keep bringing up Hillary Clinton? Because, well, if you don't, Hillary Clinton, who pays for Russian lies that are disseminated by top intelligence officials within our government to the American people before the election, and then used to commit fraud to get warrants to spy on a Trump campaign associate, and they don't do the proper vetting and corroboration, then that's fraud on the FISA court 4 separate times. And then when it's used in a media leak strategy as part of an insurance policy by top FBI people that think that Hillary should win 100 million to 0 and were also involved in her exoneration before investigation, I'm thinking that it's pretty relevant if we're going to consider principles of equal justice under the law and equal application of our laws.
The only collusion with Russia involved Hillary Clinton. Clinton paid for Russian information, fed it to the FBI and the Department of Justice, who used it to launch an investigation fraudulently and in violation of their regulations, and then used it to spy on a Trump associate. Yet there is no investigation that we're aware of, no legitimate investigation of Hillary Clinton, Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele, James Comey, and the whole gang of corrupt individuals at the FBI and the Department of Justice. And yet, juxtapose the investigation of Trump. There's no evidence that he ever colluded or had an agreement of conspiracy or coordination with Russians to win the election. No evidence.
But there are 2 tracks, though, that Mueller is obviously taking. If they can tie anybody that knows Donald Trump, whether they communicated with him or not, and in the case of Roger Stone, he said absolutely not, that they can somehow tie him to some knowledge of the WikiLeaks release. Well, if Donald Trump didn't steal it and Donald Trump didn't conspire to steal it, my reading of the Pentagon Papers ruling and 6-3 Supreme Court decision is that they would have as much right to get that information as the New York Times has a right to get it and print it.
Sure. Of course he did exactly what I did. I reached out to WikiLeaks and Julian Assange to get more information.
Did
it's not
you get
a crime to do that. No, I got nowhere, like hundreds of journalists. What I agree with David that what.
By the way, I don't mean to brag, but I got somewhere. I got an interview. I got a radio and TV interview.
You're the only one who got anywhere.
I'm not bragging or anything. I'm just saying.
But Jerome Corsi has now laid out a complaint with the Department of Justice that Mueller is trying to get him to sign on to a lie, to agree to a narrative that Mueller has conjured out of thin air of Trump-Russian collusion. And of course he won't do it. He said, I'm not going to lie about this. And apparently Manafort is doing the same thing. This is test the line. It's bribery, it's extortion, intimidation, threats, and judicial bullying. And the person who should be held responsible is Robert Mueller and his team of partisans.
Well, if that's the case, and, it is bribery. It is a thing of value. And I understand prosecutorial discretion, but there's a difference, when you see a person and you go looking for a crime here and you're willing to say to a guy that is going to jail, maybe for the rest of their life, you tell us what we want and we're gonna take that jail issue away for you. That's a pretty large incentive for most people. What do you want me to say? Okay, I'm Sammy the Bull. I murdered, 19 people? David, you do these cases. He murdered 19 people, but he testifies against Gotti and some other top mob guys, and he gets a witness protection program house in Arizona. Pretty good deal. No jail time for 19 murders, or time served when he was first caught.
Yeah, listen, legitimately, it is called obstruction of justice. You don't see it prosecuted because all of these folks are in it together. On the state level, the state DA is elected, and they all work together, et cetera. You have an opportunity now to really send a message. Again, Whitaker, under the special regulations, under special counsel regulations, has an obligation to oversee all of this and to rein him in. Specifically, the regulations provide for him to call back conduct that's inappropriate and to report that then to Congress. This is an opportunity now. He's independent from Mueller. That's, the nature, by definition. And when he hears about this happening, he must investigate. He must take action. Even if the courts try to stop it because it's interfering with a case against Corsi, Whitaker has an independent obligation to get into it.
Well, there's a story out today that Mark Warner, the Democrat from Virginia, and that he has sent a number of referrals to Bob Mueller, and he said this in a Sunday interview, and it signals, quote, if you lie to Congress, and I'm your chairman, Chairman Burr on Friday said, if you lie to Congress, we're going after you. Now, I had a whole list of people that had lied to Congress that have gotten away with it time after time. The only person I know that's ever been held accountable is Michael Cohen.
Yeah, and by the way, Christopher Steele, who phonied up this dossier that was used to damage Trump, the whole pretext for the investigation of Trump, he lied to the FBI agents. Why isn't there an outstanding indictment in order for extradition for Christopher Steele? Why? He lied to the FBI when he said, I never talked to the media. Clearly, he did talk to the media about the dossier. He and Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson were feeding this. Simpson, by the way, has taken the fifth against self-incrimination. And so why aren't there charges and prosecutions and indictments against these individuals? Why hasn't this been presented to a grand jury?
Stay right there. More Gregg Jarrett. David Schoen on the other side. All right, as we continue with David Schoen and Gregg Jarrett, I only have about 30 seconds left each, and we're going to get to calls. And by the way, teachers telling 5-year-olds that Santa doesn't exist. Do you think both Warner and Burr really mean it for those people that we know that lied to Congress, Greg? Are they really going to bring in all those Clinton people and charge them? I doubt it.
No, of course not. No, they never will. Hillary Clinton gave deceptive answers on numerous occasions under oath. She deceived the FBI during her interview. She'll never be held accountable unless there is a new appointed and confirmed attorney general like a John Ratcliffe, who's a congressman from Texas. He would clean house and hold those accountable.
Why do you have so much confidence in him?
Broken the law.
All right, well, let me give David the last 30. We'll talk about that later. What do you think? Are all these people going to be held accountable? Because I doubt it. It seems the Clintons, we have a two-tier justice system, David.
Absolutely, and they absolutely will not be held accountable by that Congress. Listen, we saw it when he testified. People like Jerry Nadler made him out to be a hero. They're not looking for the truth. Let me say this. This Comey situation offers a great opportunity. They have to be prepared this time. They had Strzok making them look like monkeys last time. They must be prepared to ask him the tough questions. He has a lot to answer for, Comey, and he can't make it a circus in public like he wants to do. Get him under oath and lock him in. Have some people who know how to ask questions asking him the questions. Even the IG noted Comey's conduct in the slow-rolling, the Wiener laptop business, all of those kinds of things. The leaks.
Listen, I hope it happens, but I'm going to be honest. I have a lot of confidence. All right, David, thank you, and happy Hanukkah, my friend, by the way. And Greg, thank you, and happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas to everybody, too.
Before Reagan, before those 8 years of Reagan, where Bush was a loyal vice president, except when Iran-Contra happened, then he told investigators he was out of the loop. So he was conveniently out of the loop during that, which is kind of smart of him. But where the country was before Reagan-Bush. And it was all part of our incredible and inspiring history part of the equation. When I say free trade, I mean the old way. You have people like Pat Toomey, who we're going to get into as well, who is the senator from Pennsylvania, who is viciously against the USMCA, the new NAFTA, spurious reasons. It is preposterous what he's arguing. He's basically arguing that we need to make it easier to outsource jobs to Mexico. That's what Sherrod Brown is arguing. That's what Toomey's arguing. Now, Sherrod Brown is kind of taking a different tack, saying this doesn't go far enough. So what's the truth? Where are we with this NAFTA that still has to get approved by Congress, the new NAFTA USMCA? Joining us now, who was just back from Buenos Aires, Peter Navarro, Director of Trade and Industrial Policy, and also the Director of the White House National Trade Council. We're going to talk to him about this and then the Xi 90-day hold on the increase in tariffs on the China issue, and because that's another big decision that was made over the weekend. Peter, great to talk to you. How you doing?
Hey, Laura. Lovely day in D.C. here.
Let's talk about where we are on this new NAFTA, otherwise known as the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement on trade. You heard Sherrod Brown hitting it and firing a warning shot that the White House doesn't have any done deal here until Congress gets its hands on it.
It's a great deal. It's a modern deal. It's basically the template for every trade deal that we're going to be negotiating further. It does everything we need it to do. The most important thing for the working men and women of this country are the strong domestic content laws, dramatically increased, coupled with the strong protections for workers and the environment, will basically ensure that our supply chain stays here rather than migrates to sweatshop labor and pollution havens. So Senator Brown's going to do his thing in terms of trying to outflank the president on trade, but this president has done something no president in modern history has done repeatedly, which is renegotiate these trade deals people said he couldn't renegotiate, get it done in a way which advances the interests of the auto industry, manufacturing industries, and workers. And, politics is going to come into play here, but the president and the team feels confident that Congress will look at this deal, and when they have an up or down vote on it, it's going to be up.
This is what Paul Gigot and Pat Toomey talked about over the weekend. Toomey again focusing on the USMCA.
So you've looked at this new agreement. Can you support it in its current form?
No, not in its current form, Paul. The net effect of it is it diminishes the opportunity for trade among the three countries, and the whole idea is, of course, to maximize the freedom to trade. It does that in a variety of ways that are problematic for me. One is an expiration date. I don't know why in the world you'd put an expiration date on a free trade agreement.
6 years. Isn't it?
Well, it's 16, but...
you review it after 6.
You review it after 6 with no assurance that it'll be extended at that point. I think that's a significant problem.
Okay. First react to that, because we have other things that he said as well. Go ahead. Hit that one.
Well, look, Senator Toomey is way on the other side of where this administration stands, where working men and women in this country stand, and where people with a clear-eyed view of how this country's been ripped off for years stand. The reality is that Senator Toomey opposes the very mechanisms in the New Deal that are good for American workers, good for American manufacturers, which is to say the domestic content rules and the strong protections for workers. So this is what's great about America. We can have kind of the globalist side of that debate come in and say it's going to be great to offshore all our jobs in the interest of getting our supply chain spread out all over the world. And then you can have President Donald J. Trump basically saying, nope, that doesn't work for us.
Well, do you think there's enough opposition in the Senate to fundamentally alter the possibility that this would change?
Well, that one's outside my lane. The only thing I'll be participating in are conversations like this to help explain to the American people why this is a much better deal than NAFTA, which shipped millions of jobs offshore and led to a wave of illegal immigration into this country. This is a revolutionary change in that. But at the end of the day, I think what we'll see when both the Senate and the House look at this is that, hey, this is a great improvement. And it's great for America, and it's rare that you can have a deal that helps all three countries in the way it does. Getting back, for me, at the Office of Trade and Manufacturing, getting back our supply chain here in this country is the key, because the real jobs aren't in the assembly big boxes where the final products are put together. The real jobs are in the 7 tiers of the supply chain spread out across the 50 states, and that's what we lost. That's what we got to get back.
Yeah, well, just so people understand, what people like Toomey, the Wall Street Journal wants open borders, open trade. They don't really want any restriction on either. I mean, they'll talk a good game, but their goal is open borders, open markets, no matter what. And when you listen to what Toomey says, again, he's representing the Wall Street view of this. You listen to what Toomey is saying, he doesn't want there to be any elevation in the wage requirements of workers, okay, so working on these automobiles, because to do so would make it harder for U.S. companies to keep jobs in the United States. He wants it to be easier for U.S. auto manufacturers to move operations to Mexico, period. That's what he wants. And this provision makes it more difficult. I want to play this one more time. This is a new